Jared here from soundguitarlessons.com. This is the second video in a series called How to Learn Guitar Chords, and today we're going to talk about guitar scale theory. In the first video of the series, I went over the 14 basic guitar chords for beginners. So if you want to keep up with the series and follow along, make sure you check that out if you haven't watched it yet. I'll put a link in the description with a playlist of all the videos in the whole series, and that'll be updated as they come out. So I'm making this series on how to learn guitar chords because I don't want the idea of learning a chord to be simply looking up a chord shape, learning the name, learning how to physically play it, and say, cool, I learned a chord. Yes, you did, but I want to go much deeper. I want you to be a sorcerer of chords. That's why the second lesson in this free course on chords is of course called the Source of Chords. That's right. What's the source of chords? Where do chords come from? Of course, the source of chords is scales. And I want you to say that 3 times. Of course, the source of chords is scales. Of course, the source of chords. Of course, the chords in scales are chords. We have to learn guitar scale theory to be able to do any of the cool, deep understanding stuff that I want us to be able to do with chords. And that means labeling the notes of a chord, not the letter names, but the theory numbers of a chord so we can manipulate it, move it around, add cooler notes to it, add color to a chord, add sevens, add extensions, analyze what chords are in a key so we can figure out that key and improvise something that's guaranteed to sound good in it. Analyze the chords of a key so we can choose a selection of chords that we know is going to sound good together for composing or writing songs or jamming, all of this stuff. And this is exactly all the stuff and more that we're going to learn in this series. For this lesson, it's very simple. We just need to be able to do one simple thing to lay the foundation to get to all of that awesome stuff. And what that is that we need to be able to count the numbers of the major scale off of any note, off of any string, off of any fret, anywhere on the guitar. Then we can easily start to understand, design, and analyze chords. Now, I said it that way that we need to be able to count in a major scale, count the numbers of a key using the major scale, instead of saying, I need you to be able to play all your scales all over the guitar, learn your scale forms, play scale patterns, play in every key in every position. It's not quite that, and I have other videos on exactly that, and I'll put a link to those videos in the description. But for this, it's actually not this idea of practicing and running scales, but just this idea of being able to count through them as a map. With this map, if we can count with a major scale anywhere on the guitar, then we can find and analyze, target, construct anything having to do with harmony and chords. And it doesn't matter if we're looking at a minor key or a minor chord or a diminished chord or an augmented chord, or if it's major or if it's something totally different. This major scale structure that we need to be able to just kind of map around on the fretboard, nice and slowly is fine, is our measuring stick. We just use it to find anything. It's our compass. So we just need to know 2 things to have this skill that I'm talking about here. 1, we need to know the structure of the major scale. And 2, we need to know the interval distance of a whole step and a half step along any string, but as well as crossing strings. And that's it. You can literally play scales all over the guitar, anywhere, everywhere, if you know those 2 things. So first, the structure of the major scale. And if you've watched any of my other videos, this comes up all the time because this is the foundation of any theory. If you just know this, you can start to build everything else off of it. And all that is that the major scale is 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and there's a half step between 3 and 4 and 7 and 1. That's our shortest distance. That's a single fret distance. Half step between 3 and 4 and 7 and 1, and the rest of the notes are a whole step away. So if we study that major scale structure along one string, if I just take our lowest fret, first fret, sixth string, this happens to be the note F. So if I call this 1, I'm going to play an F major scale, and I have 1 whole step up to 2, 2 to 3 is a whole step, 3 to 4 is a half step, as we said, 4 to 5 is a whole step, 5 to 6 is a whole step, 6 to 7 is a whole step, 7 to 1 is a half step. We just have to know that, and then we can go in reverse, nice and slow, single finger is fine. This is not about running scales, it's about seeing this structure. If this first note is 1, the note right below it is 7. 1, 7, 1, 2, 1, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 7, 1. Okay? So easy enough that our whole step is 2 frets on the fretboard, and our half step is a 1 fret distance on the fretboard when you're going along one string. the whole steps and half steps across the strings are the catch here, that if we know this, then you can start to go all over the place. So the whole step distance when crossing strings is a total of spanning 4 frets, and I would use my first finger and my pinky to play that. So here I'm just going ahead and saying, all right, my first finger's on the 5th fret, and my pinky finger happens to be on the 8th fret. That's a whole step shape, interval shape. Okay, so here's how I like to practice this. Okay, there's a total of 4 frets spanning, and there's 2 frets in the middle. That is a whole step. Dun, 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 dun. You can test it out by checking a whole step up on one string going 2 frets. Bum, 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 bum. Same note. Okay, now I have that whole step shape between string 6 and 5. Same exact shape between the next 2 strings, 5 and 4. Same exact shape between the next 2 strings, 4 and 3. And then the unfortunate inconsistency here is that the strings 3 and 2, you have to have a different whole step shape that spans a total of 3 frets and has 1 fret in between. That's now a whole step between those two because of the tuning of the guitar. If you do any tuning by ear with this kind of standard tuning method by ear, you have to shift over to this 4th fret to tune between the 3rd and 2nd string. Same difference here. That's why that's happening. Back to string 1 and 2. We go back to the original whole step shape. So you have whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. I actually like this as a little exercise to just drill that in. Play the whole step, play the whole step, play the whole step on each string set. As for the half step, it's simply a stretch beyond that 1 fret. If you stretch either finger over, you're going to get a half step. Nice crunchy sound. Half step, half step. So now we're spanning a total of 5 frets and having to reach over. This half step on the strings 2 and 3 is now spanning 4 frets total. The same shape the whole step is on the other string sets. We have to be able to see those. Now, simply, your practice homework is this. Make sure you can do this fun little exercise. It's a very kind of free-form exercise. I want you to play any note on the guitar anywhere. All right, choose a random note. Okay, I'm choosing that note. And then I want you to choose a random number between 1 and 7. Okay, I'm going to choose 3. And then we say, okay, this is the 3 of the key. Don't worry about letter names. Don't worry about actually even the root of the key. If you want to explore what the root of the key is, that's okay. But don't think about the letter names of each note. Definitely don't. You're thinking of the numbers. If this is 3, well, 4 is right next to it. You can go up to 4. You can go up. Oh, 4 to 5 is a whole step. Okay? You can go anywhere you want and just cross strings whenever you feel like it, or continue on a string whenever you feel like it. So this is now 5, and I know, well, 5 to 6 is a whole step. I could either go up there, or I can use my whole step shape to go up to that same pitch, and we hear how that same pitch is sounds the same as the one I just said. Okay, 6 to 7. Okay, 7 to 1 is a half step. Just for fun, I'm going to go half step cross string. I'm on 1. Just for fun, I'm going to cross string again. 1 to 2, way over here, knowing that that is my interval distance of a whole step. Look where I ended up playing 2. Oh, well, 3 is here. Hey, that's the same pitch that I started on, but I'm on a different string, different fret. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6. Oh, well, I'll go 6 to 5, crossing with a whole step. 5. Oh, I'll go down a whole step on the string. 4, 3. I'll cross strings now. 2. Now I know I'm on a 1. I know I'm doing this kind of quickly. 7, 6, 5, 4, 4, 3. Ooh, that's the 3 we started on actually. 3, 2, 1, 7, 1, 7, 1, 2, 1, 7, 7, 6, 5. I'm all over the place, right? So if you practice scale forms and scale shapes that like a scale and a position, this is what we're doing now, is just weaving in and out all between them, not thinking at all about any kind of scale shape or scale form, but just simply what note am I on in the structure of the major scale, what's next to it on either side, and then do I want to move along the string or crossing strings? And let it be a brain buster. I mean, the more it's kind of like challenging you, that's those new neurons firing and building and making pathways. We want it to be hard. We want it to be a puzzle. And so a little bit of that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of that is amazing practice, okay? So just make sure that is at least clicking and making sense, that ability. You'll see how in the next lesson in this series and other videos in this series, how this is going to be crucial. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to say, hey, count up the strings in this way, count up to the next note in this way, just like we talked about that we need to be able to do. It doesn't need to be fast, but you need to be able to get it and say, oh, hold on, I can do this. Cool, let me think through it. Cool, found it. Okay, you'll see how that's going to pay off. If you want to jump ahead a little bit and just look at something that's down the road, not in this series, but just kind of separate and parallel to this, I have a super cool little booklet that I made called Chords with Color. And I really put a lot of effort into it, and it's a ton of chord shape diagrams, a big chord chart that shows the theory numbers of each chord, which is what we're leading towards here with the numbers, and how standard chords and basic chords, like the ones we talked about in the first series, can be manipulated into really rich and interesting and colorful sounding chords. So I'm really proud of it, and I encourage you to download it. If you just go to my website, soundguitarlessons.com/chords-with-color, you can get a free copy of that there. I just had a student email me recently that said, wow, I can't believe you're giving this away for free. I would totally pay for this. So I really just want it to be a valuable thing for people. So if you're interested in checking out chord charts and interesting chord shapes, some of them very easy to play and very kind of rich and beautiful sounding, then please check that out. There's a link in the description as well. In the next lesson of this series, episode 3, we're going to talk about the actual chord theory, chord structure, and labeling chord tones using this same method that we just learned. So we're going to start to say, hey, if we know these numbers now with a scale, we can start to build chords with them by selecting specific numbers and analyzing chords by using this, again, as our compass, as our measuring stick to measure things. So it's going to start getting really cool. So continue to follow along. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.